Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the new Veldora, Thunderous Storm Dragon, has released. He is meant to be Thor. We saw him in the cutscenes. We knew he was coming. He got delayed by a week, and they got replaced by Furry Shuna. But he is now here. And he is definitely controversial. Alright, so let's, before we take a look at him, let's look at the meta as it sits right now. So we have Raphael, who stacks Vengeance and gives everybody guard. Defense skill. He has this skill, which seals all attack, crit, and pierce rate up, and then gives you 50% attribute resistance for 2 turns. Defense oriented, alright? We have the free-to-play Yone. He's got an orb change, and then he also adds Vengeance and has a physical attack resistance by 20%. Defense skill. We have the new Protector Velzard. She resets your skill costs, she does the counterattack for Vengeance, she gives you extra skill points on orange, or not fucking oranges, greens, and yeah, lowers your skill cost. Definitely a counter, like a defensive-oriented resetting, but low skill point team. And then we got Furry Shuna. And she was kind of a out-of-left field unit, right? She still stacks Vengeance, so she still matches up with the mechanic, but then she rushes her own ult by 50%, which is good as a single-target DPS. And then, because she's a single-target DPS, she got the reverse stats skill, so the higher her defense is now her really high attack, and then gives herself a wind attack buff by 50%. And most players thought that was kind of weird, but okay, fine, we have a defensive character who wants to be defensive in order to become offensive. Still made sense in the whole realm of a defensive-oriented meta. Well, let me tell you something. They were not done with the offense, because we now have Veldora, who is an attack growth unit on a defense meta. He is yet again another light unit, so let me show you something funny real fast. EX ability board. We've just added Veldora over here. Look at the amount of units that light has over Earth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 extra units over Earth. At least 4 over everybody else, sometimes 5. Why is light always so fucking steroided to hell? I have no idea, but that's not the whole point of this. What am I doing here? I want this button. So, he's attack growth. He is magic and he is light. He uses the hammer because he's Thor. Makes sense. He is a single target damage dealer with no additional effect, so he's pure damage. His first skill, Otherworld Legend and Warrior's Mind Force, gets 80% weakness strike, and he seals everybody's defensive upskill, all enemies' defense upskills for 1 turn, which is like what the old Fire guy used to do. He would seal defense skill, and it's something that has not been necessary since Fire guy came out. For New Year's of 2022, January of 2022, right? Yeah, we haven't had to seal defense up. So he's coming in hot with that. He has Weakness Strike, which, if you don't know what Weakness Strike is if you are type advantage, so if this Veldora is light, so if you're fighting a dark unit and you hit them, you're doing weak point damage because you have type advantage. Well, using the skill will further increase the amount of damage you do by 80% because you have type advantage. It also counts to if you're on the category that's getting the extra damage buff from the Protector, like this new Velzard gives it extra 60% damage buff versus water enemies, if you're on the category, right? This whole thing right here. Otherworld Legends, damage to water enemies, 60%. That also counts. So Veldora, because he's light, he still gets that 6% damage buff, which still counts as Weakness Strike. And then by using that skill from Veldora, you get additional 80% damage on that. Now, if you're fighting a water unit and you're a water unit, like if I'm taking Rain against, Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, and I use Weakness Strike, it does jack crap, right? unless I'm running under protector that gives me that type advantage over Rimuru, that extra 6%. If I try and go type disadvantage, wind onto space, you don't get anything. So it's very, very specific to having type advantage or having force damage. Alright, that's the only time you're ever going to see this skill actually pop in. And it's only for 2 categories, being Otherworld Legend or Warrior's Mind. Now, Otherworld Legend is the new meta. It doesn't have a lot of units right now. It's got the Light 3.0, and it's got all the units that came in for this current meta, right? It's not a bad roster, because, the Light 3.0 team is still a fairly solid team. And then once you include in Warrior's Mind, that's a much better team that has a lot of units. And so now the category looks like this, and it's almost tripled in size. And there's quite a few units. Guy, Hinata, Valentine, Violet, EX Rimuru, Yome, Darkness, Raphael, Yuki, Valentine down here, Daggerel, Carrion. Like, there are options on this team that you can give them all a type advantage buff now. It's not a bad thing. But this is a defense meta. Alright? I just want you to remember that. This is a defense-focused meta. Sealing skills, giving yourself extra defense, guarding, resetting skill costs for orb changes. This is not a high damage team. And now they've given Veldora a high damage skill while lowering defense. Now, I don't remember when I was in beatdown battle that I needed to seal the enemy's defense, right? Because they would seal my own stuff. They would seal my attack and pierce and crits, so they can't seal weakness strike, which is fine. Sure, whatever. But I also don't remember having them super high defense. Like, they do, but the Vengeance takes care of that, right? They're doing 400k a hit every turn on Vengeance. I don't really need them to have lower defense, because it doesn't matter. Vengeance doesn't care about their defense stat. So that's the first odd thing. The second odd thing is then he's still stacking Vengeance. Fine, okay. And then he's also stacking permanent ult damage by 10% up to 50. So this is now a number of units that do permanent stacks of ult damage. This does work with a temporary buff, so if we were to use Veldora, and if you wanted to use another ult buffer like Guy or Megamine, they would stack together, because Veldora's is a permanent 50%, and these guys are a temporary 80%. So because one is permanent, one is temporary, they will add together, and it will become a magical 120%? 130%? 130. Now, if you were to combine Guy and Megamine together on their skills, they would not, because they're both temporary one-turn buffs, so it would just be 80%, regardless of if you use both or not. So, I mean, in theory, yeah, he is a good support unit, right? He's giving extra ult damage, he's giving weakness strike to your actual damage units. He is a sub-DPS unit, he is attack growth. And with Shuna being defense growth, but then having that stat swap ability, and that extra 50% wind attack, that does turn her, on the nuke turn, into a very good DPS unit, which if you then suddenly have an extra 80% weakness strike and 50% ult damage, you can look fairly good with, buffing Shuna. But again, this now feels like 2 entirely different metas, right? We have defense, and then we have like this kind of bridging the gap between having defense and offense, and then we have full-time offense. And I don't really understand why they couldn't just go all in on a defense team. Because we already know. I've already done most of the videos where Raphael and Yome and Belzard and a bunch of free-to-play orb changers can literally kill every single stage in the game by themselves with very little difficulty. Very little difficulty. I didn't need another DPS, and I certainly didn't need a support DPS unit to do that. So, let's go over the rest of Veldora's kit before we get too out of hand here. So, weakness strike, defense seal, vengeance stacks, ult damage stacking. His valor trait is trash. Green damage nerfed by 10%, cool, whatever, fine. And then his actual trait is good. It's the protection trait every 3 turns, which starts at 5 up to 7 points. This is a good trait, especially for a long-term team like a defensive team is meant to be. 10 turns, right, is how long that mock Jubilee was. Well, that's plenty of time to get extra protection gauge out of that. That is a very good trait for him. He gets extra 20% ult damage at 120. He needs Rimuru to have extra guard and counter power, which, sure, Raphael's giving guards, so I guess it makes sense. And he is a self-buffing unit based on magic characters. So he is a purely supporting sub-DPS unit. And if you want to look at him in that light, where you're no longer considering him as part of a defensive meta, if you just take him away from Raphael and Velzar, pretend that they never existed, Veldora by himself is actually a fairly competent support unit. He is limited because it's only Otherworld Legend and Warrior's Mind. It'd be a lot better if this was just Weakness Strike for everybody, like Shizu is, right? Because the EX Shizu, Swimsuit Shizu, also has Weakness Strike, but it's 60%, not 80%. It's for 2 turns, though. And then she also has that really powerful ult swap ability, which granted is not as good as a permanent ult damage buff, but it does get you out of some hairy scenarios where you don't want to send 5 blues and an ult, you want to send 6 blues. So they're built for different types of teams to be ran, but I will not deny that if I don't look at a defense meta, Veldora is a solid damage support option. Raphael, still a good unit. Otherworld Legend, Warrior's Mind, so like, because Guy didn't do enough damage, because if you have a 120 EX, Warrior's Mind Rimuru, because he didn't do enough damage, sure. We now have someone who gives 80% Weakness Strike to Guy, and another 50% ult damage to Guy. Great, that's going to make Guy hit uber duper hard. But, do you need it? And I would say, probably not. Not this close to the anniversary. Veldora is a good unit to have if you're a sweaty tryhard. If you really, really care about maximizing every single point of damage on Jubilee. For everybody else that doesn't give a shit because they're not a sweaty tryhard, they don't have every single unit in the game, they don't have every single unit on this meta or the Warrior's Mind meta, I would say Veldora is a 300% easy skip for 90% of the players out there. The other 10% are the people who actually care about Jubilee and stuff. Alright? Shuna. Also a unit probably unnecessary. She's interesting, but also unnecessary. Because, like I said earlier, I have already proven that Raphael, Yom, and Belzard, the 3 units with a bunch of free-to-play orb changers, Rimuru, Geld, Traya, Sufia, Aaron, Darkness, whatever, they can kill any event in this game. So if you're like Joker, I don't want to wait for the anniversary. Which one of these banners should I summon on? I would say you would summon on this, and you would not touch these 2 banners, because they really don't matter in the terms of long-term gameplay for you as a newer player. These 2 units will carry you through every single type of content, probably to ever come in the future, until they nerf Vengeance somehow. Alright? That is a lot more impactful than supporting 2 teams that you don't have units for, or being a DPS for a team that you don't have. Right? Okay? So, if you need to summon, because you have that itch and you have no self-control like me, then you will summon on the Part 1 banner, and you will pretend these Part 2 and Part 3 banner does not exist. Does not exist. And that, we also have the leaks for the incoming, the bait banner. Let me try and find it. This banner right here. We do have this bait, right? It does have Warrior's Mind on it. So you're like, but Joker, I could summon on this, and then Veldora could help me. It's like, yes, very true. But now you have to summon for Veldora, and you have to summon on this banner, which is now 2 banners you got to summon on. You got to pray that you pull everybody on this banner that you actually want, because there is still the Dark Anniversary units, which are not on the Warrior's Mind team. And so the odds of you getting Veldora, getting Velzar, getting Violet, getting Valentine, getting Guy, getting Rimuru are quite low. Alright? Because in order for Veldora to work, you either need this current meta, or you need the Warrior's Mind meta. And that would, preclude that you have both of those metas. So you're summoning for a unit to support metas you don't have, versus getting the 2 probably most broken units in the game right now. I think we all know how you should spend your crystals. Or you just continue to save like a good little boy or girl, and wait another month and a half for the actual 2-year anniversary to start on the 27th of October, And then you're happy because you have so many crystals to blow on a triple featured unit banner. On the anniversary units, who will probably be very good. So, I caution people. I really, really caution people against summoning for this Veldora. I don't see any reason why a normal player would need him. I understand why people would want him, though. He is our first battle unit Veldora in almost 2 years. You know, December of 2022 is the last time we got a battle unit Veldora. It's been a hot minute. So, I get it. Veldora is a popular character, and people were hyped to actually see him get a new unit. His unit is limited, but also not limited. Like, one skill is unlimited, one skill is limited to 2 categories. Do you have those categories? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, and you like Veldora, and you don't care, then sure, summon. If your answer is no, I don't have Warrior's Mind, no, I don't have Otherworld Legend, then no, you should not summon. Or you should summon on this banner to get Raphael and Belzard. So, that is my initial thought with doing limited testing with Veldora. Again, I think he's a really good support for some other teams, but he's quite unnecessary for most players. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below on Veldora. Are you happy? Are you upset? Did you summon for him? If you did, how did your summons go? I pulled him in 40 pity, so it was very painless, thank God. But yeah, I'm slightly confused. And yeah, no, I'm just kind of confused as where they took this whole meta. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.